Stu, talking to you from Vermont, the headquarters of the AKEDA Foundation. And we're trying something a little different today. I don't know whether or not there's been anything like this on social media before, but this is a quick primer on the Jewish fast of Tisha B'Av, the 9th of Av, which is coming up starting Sunday on Monday night, August the 4th, running through sundown on Tuesday, August the 5th. So what's Tisha B'Av about? Tisha B'Av is the saddest holiday on our calendar because it's the reflection and commemoration of the destruction of the first and second temples. The first temple was destroyed by the Babylonians in 586 BCE, and the second temple was destroyed by the Romans in 70 CE after a 33-day siege that started with the fast of Tammuz back on July the 15th. Why do I say that? There are 5 public fasts throughout the calendar, but this is a fast of national mourning that coincides with the siege of Jerusalem before the walls were breached. So what's the deal about Tisha B'Av? Well, you know, I feel kind of like David Letterman because there are things that you can do and there are things that you can't. So here are the do's and don't list. So that way, if you've never had the holiday before or you want something quick to look at, or you can always go online and look up the 9th of Av and the customs, and they'll give them to you. But first of all, the big thing is going to be the evening service. As the sun sets on Monday, you will have had, or we will have had, or hopefully I will have had a meal to prepare me for the fast. You're supposed to eat big at lunchtime and then eat less large at dinner time. If you have a medical condition, it's very important. There's an exception. It's called pikuach nefesh. It's for the good of your health, and it means that you do not have to fast. It's more important that you stay with your medication and with whatever program you're on from your physician. If you think you want to do this, then you need to check with your doctor. So here we go. Well, Monday, I will go to work like hundreds of thousands or millions of other members of the Jewish faith. And long about 3 o'clock, I will start to get myself ready spiritually for the fast and for the evening service. I'll do the afternoon service as normal. And then the evening service, there'll be special prayers that'll be said. And then we will get to the point in the evening service where instead of sitting on a regular chair, I will be on a lower chair or perhaps even sitting on the floor. Instead of having the house illuminated with lights, or even because it gets dark so late, sitting on the deck, I will be in the house using a flashlight or a candle to read the Book of Lamentations, and I'll do a little bit of that for you before we leave tonight. Which is the tradition. Some synagogues also read the Book of Lamentations for the morning, or what we call the Shachari service, on the 9th. So, do's and don'ts. First, obviously, you don't eat, getting ready for Tisha B'Av, you don't eat meat for the 9 days. You don't do entertaining for the 9 days. You don't participate in sports or recreational activities for the 9 days. These are all things that I used to do when I was growing up. And when I went to Camp Ramah for those 4 summers, during the 9 days, instead of where we'd have sports activities or being able to go swimming or do things, we had classes or we had free time in order to do other things rather than the enjoyment of the normalcy of our life's activities. So that gets us into Tisha B'Av. We don't have meat for the 9 days, nor are you supposed to have alcohol for the 9-day period that is going to run up through the end of the fast on August the 5th. Second thing, you can't bathe for pleasure. You're only supposed to minimally keep yourself clean because you're in mourning. Why 9 days? Because the sages teach us that by having a 9-day period building up to Tisha B'Av, the grieving time is less harsh than if it was just a 1-day time period leading up to the Tisha B'Av, because you're able to reflect and you're able to move away from the intensity of the grieving. So, We've now before we have our service, we know we can't bathe. You're not supposed to wear leather shoes. You're not supposed to wear leather belt. You're not supposed to get a massage. No manicures, no pedicures, no spa, no marital relations during any of the fasting periods, and that would include Tisha B'Av. Now, the interesting thing about Tisha B'Av is if it falls on Shabbos, then Tisha B'Av is celebrated on Sunday because Shabbos trumps everything, and you can eat meat during the 9 days. You will be able to eat meat for Shabbos, and you also can engage in marital relations on Shabbos. Otherwise, that's off limits. We talked about the chairs. The chairs are different. Instead of sitting in your comfy Barker recliner or a sofa or something that's nice and comfortable, you sit on a small folding chair. Maybe you sit on a pillow on the floor. But the idea behind it is life is not the same. You're in a period of mourning, and so it's just as if you lost a family member. Part of my tradition that I grew up with is I light a yard site light that will burn for 24 hours, and I will do my prayers where the yard site light is located. We have other traditions regarding Tisha B'Av, like reading the Torah. You can read the Torah, but you're not supposed to study the Torah on Tisha B'Av, because Tisha B'Av is a period of mourning, and Torah is a period of joy and happiness. And so we do read portions from the Torah during the morning service of the 9th, and then in the afternoon, what we call Mincha, the afternoon service. Getting to the services, some of the other dues that we have are in the morning. Normally in the morning you wear a prayer shawl or a tallis, and you'll put on what we call phylacteries or tefillin, which is it's a strap that you wrap around your arm 7 times, then you wrap it around your hand, and the box contains prayers that are the unity of God, basically the Shema. There may be some other prayers within the box that's on your arm, and it's also on you put the same thing on your forehead, and that goes to the Shema that says you keep it close to your heart and close to your head. And so that happens in the afternoon. We do not wear that in the morning. We do read a Haftorah in the morning. We do read a Haftorah in the afternoon. And the Haftorahs are designed for periods of fast days. So Tisha B'Av, all in all, is a holiday that's really difficult. There were historical events that took place on Tisha B'Av. The final solution for the Nazis regarding the Jews and the Romans was initiated on the 9th day of Av. The Spanish Inquisition, in which Jews had the choice: convert to Catholicism, be expelled, or be executed, but under no condition could they practice the religion in the open. That was in 1492, when Columbus sailed the blue. Then you have Treblinka and the deportations to Treblinka, which was a death camp. And you had other events, the expulsion of the Jews in 1296, I believe, from England. And so all these dates, and of course World War I back in 1914 with Germany. And so all these dates are other calamities that took place during the 9th of Av. Typically speaking, Israel unfortunately finds itself in the middle of a conflict during its Jewish holidays. It is very sad that today nothing has changed, and that hopefully somewhere along the line the parties will sit down, because all everyone is saying is give peace a chance. There are special melodies that we deal with Tisha B'Av, and the melodies with Tisha B'Av have very mournful tune, and I'm going to read you I'm going to chant a sample of the Book of Lamentations, which is some very inspired reading. Isaiah, who was the prophet for the indictments of the 3 Haftorahs that led us to what we call Shabbos Chazon, which is his vision of the destruction of Israel, the third of the 3 indictments, and Jeremiah, who writes the Book of Lamentations, who describes, there are no figs on the fig tree, there's no fruit on the vine, there's no water for the trees. It's just utter devastation. Why? because the AKEDA, the unconditional faith that we carry with each other, if you're Jewish, with God and with your community, was broken. Conduct was morally reckless, and although there was a chance to be able to go to teshuvah, repentance, which always is there and available, it didn't happen. And so as a result, temples were destroyed, Jews were put into exile, spread out over the world, and the practice of religion as we knew it with Judaism had to be done in the shadows. The other thing which is important is that this is a lador of ador. You know, there have been a lot of talk about doing different things with the holidays. But Shabbos Chazon, which we'll do this week, which is the Sabbath of Devarim, it's the last book of the 5 books of Moses, Deuteronomy, which is Moses' discourse. It's the cliff notes to the Bible where Moses takes us through his leadership up to the transition, the smicha of Joshua to take over as the leader, and the entrance by Joshua, obviously, into the promised land. Moses does not see the promised land. He sees it from afar, but does not enter it. And it ends with him passing away. So Shabbat Chazon happens every year with the same reading of the Old Testament and the same Haftorah reading on the Sabbath immediately before Tisha B'Av. So those are some of the do's and don'ts and a little bit of the background on the holiday. What I'd like to do is to just chant a couple of the lines from the Book of Lamentations in the beginning, where we have, the Book of Lamentations is called Echa, which means why, or how did this happen, or alas, has different meanings. But the bottom line question that is being asked by Jeremiah is how, when the Israelite nation had the opportunity to have God as their champion, and those that were sympathetic to the Israelite nations decided to walk away from that bond of faith, leaving themselves vulnerable for the destruction. So with that, I'm going to need to use the book and my readers so I can see the print. And here we go. Eicha yashva badad ha'ir rabatiam ha'yasal ka'amana rabati bagoyim sharisi bivninos ha'yasal lamas. And the opening line reads, alas, lonely sits the city, once great with people. She that was great among nations is become like a widow. The princess among states is become a thrall. Now I'm going to go, there are 5 chapters, and each chapter tells a story of what Jeremiah views as the destruction of Israel, with pictures painted by words of fire, of desolation, of people crying, people sick, no help on the future. But then, through all this, and you get through all of this, you get to the end, and the end, you have Ki ma'os misanatanu katzvata aleinu ad ma'od chashivenu, which is return to us. Take us back, O Lord, to yourself, and let us come back. Renew our days as of old. Chashivenu Adonai Elecha v'nashuva chadesh yameinu kikedem. That sounds familiar. That's the last line as we're putting the Torah back into the ark that's sung on Shabbos as part of the Eitz Chaim, the Torah being the tree of life. And so with Tisha B'Av on the horizon, I wish you all an easy fast. Please come and join our AKEDA family. We're on Facebook at AKEDA Foundation at gmail.com. Our staff will be glad to answer any questions you have. I'll be glad to answer any questions you have. Shabbat Shalom, Shavua Tov, easy fast. So long from Vermont.